Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Lost Lieutenant. I'm your host, Jacob, and I am joined by.
Josh.
And Nick.
I was wondering whether how you guys were gonna go picking it. You did really
There's
well, but
always
I
like
think
a 5-second pause.
I'll be honest. It's probably better than anyone else has ever done. Still remember when Kev was hosting most foul and all we were garbage at it. Today's episode, we are continuing our CanCon tradition. After doing a mission analysis, we are going to do a Pimp My List. So we've asked our listeners to submit their lists that they've got that they're potentially planning to take to CanCon. We've taken a look at them and are going to give our expert and and just perfect opinion on what they actually should run with their lists. But before we get to that, we're going to have our typical catch up with. We're going to start with Nick. That's who we're going to start with. What have you been up to?
Well, we did have a tournament last weekend, but because all three of us were there and it was our reinforcements and resilience mashup, we're going to do a spotlight episode of that sometime soonish. So we'll skip over that. But prior to that, I took my Rama to the Throw the Dice Store Championship in Geelong. Was an interesting day. Round one was into a pure camo tack list. That was
nice.
That was piloted very conservatively. He absolutely would not take bait to uncamo anything. So most of the game consisted of I move, okay, no reaction, I discover. Okay, now I discover, shoot that. Now I discover, shoot that. The highlight of the game was at the end of my first turn when I went, I still have a lieutenant order, and I've got my NCO with his grenade launcher. He's a full camo army. What can I... Oh, there's a Quasi creature there. And there's 3 camo tokens right next to the Quasi creature. Yeah, and then I rolled a 1. And...
That poor Strelok.
Yeah. Round 2 was in attack as well, but I was well prepared to do more discovered rolls and rolled more discovered rolls than I think I've rolled in any other tournament ever.
Apparently Geelong is just going for being gross.
Well, one was not from
spamming out.
Round 2 was James, so it wasn't even from Geelong. The round 3 top table was a Rama off, which was lovely to see. It was highly classified. I thought we were going for an 8-8 draw in highly classified. But because we were using the old deck, per the store's rules, when we flipped over our hidden classified, his was Kazivac, and he had the bonus point, which meant it was a 9-8 win due to the bonus point on the hidden classified card.
Oh, that's rough.
So,
yeah,
well played game. It was quite the experience to play into. Not quite the mirror match, but we both knew each other's specialists, and so there were points of the game where we were shooting corpses on the ground just to make sure they never got up again.
Well, that's hack specialty, is
yeah,
getting things back up. Do you like from memory? You're a bit of a fan of the Hakim. You don't,
yes.
Yeah. Do you like bringing that on just to pick up? Like, do you have that just to pick up other specialists? Make sure that. Yeah.
Not necessarily to pick a specialist, but yeah, he is excellent at getting on to do a classified. Since medium infantry, doctor.
Is that the one with Berserk as well? Or is that something else I'm thinking of?
No, it's the parachuting doctor.
No, parachute. They have a NASMAT.
So their shtick is they can bring on a NASMAT that also parachutes in.
What am I thinking of? Am I thinking of the Namur?
You think of the Nahab?
Yes, you're thinking of the Nahab. Which is the other parachutist, yeah. A couple of those on the table too.
I can imagine.
I think one which jumped another one.
Wait, so given that you had like a mirror match, how close
Yeah.
were your lists to each other?
Um, they were not all the well. The core was fairly similar. We had slightly different specialists,
Mm.
uh, but I'd gone with like a TR bot. I'd gone with the uh, Hortlak Janissary sniper, since it's MSV1 and MIM3.
That's the like
Uh,
the yeah. That's the I was gonna say that's the
the
Janissary, but
light
yeah,
Janissary.
yeah.
Yeah. Whereas he had gone for a Tariq and company Harry's.
Yeah, Brian
Right.
does love his Warriors.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, right. Yeah.
Because of all sort of like the sectorials,
Mhm.
especially well, just all the sectorials. Runma is one of the ones where you can build it for resilience, you can build it for speed, you can build it for. I
Yeah.
suppose the only thing you really can't build it for is like camo. I don't think you really have all that much, but
Um the Mukhtar MSV2 does a lot of work.
oh no,
Actually, when you
Build them to
I meant
produce camo.
as in camo states against camo.
oh,
Yeah,
produce camo
sure.
states. No, there's not that much.
Because I was about to say, I'm pretty sure you've got a bunch of sensors on things as well. Like as far as dealing with camo, I think Runma's okay, aren't
Just
they?
Batard, right?
Yeah, Batard and then the regular sensor bots.
Oh, okay. Uh, Josh, what have you been up to? You did run the tournament that we were talking about, so
I did.
just like let's not go too far on it. So let the spotlight speak for itself. But how did you find running Operation Heart of the Cards?
It was good. It was my first tournament. I had a good time, and luckily
Mm.
we had a group of 10 people there that are very chill to work with. We didn't probably take into account how much longer resilience ops takes. So a
Mm.
couple of rounds were a little bit over time, and I did stress out some people with making them finish rounds very quick. There were some death clocks involved, but everyone
Yeah.
was super chill about it, and very gracious with their time. For me, I did have because we only had 9 players. I did have to play as well, which does make TLing a little bit harder.
Yeah.
No, it was good. And I should say, congratulations, Jacob. You did take out top spot, so
Yes.
well done.
Did.
Despite your
Did.
prize being a mispack,
Yes.
you did very well.
Yeah. So, um, yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
But yeah,
In terms,
oh no, go on.
yeah. Yeah, well, just in terms of other things apart from the tournament, because we're
Mm.
going to touch on that later. Last week I played Tag Raid. Those viewers who are subscribers to my Instagram will have seen a little review on there as well. But
Because that's really only
the
just landed on the Aussie shores, haven't they?
yeah, it's very recent. I mean, enough time for our local Callum to paint 4 tags and the mega beasts, and he's just been going to town
Oh,
on the
and
painting on it.
for anyone wondering, like the tags are the tags. The worm is probably about the size of a megalodon.
Or bigger,
Megalodon, a little bit
bigger,
taller, a little bit
yeah,
taller.
taller.
But the bloody
Big
what's
Drake or whatever it's
the
called.
Drake
Yeah.
is massive. I like think big Warhammer model big. Like
Like that old the old Witch King on the Fell Beast. Like
I
think
just
that kind of size, but the wingspan's like twice as wide.
I was
Um,
thinking like think of if you've ever seen Archaon, except
yeah,
instead of how tall Archaon is, just turn him on his side and it's kind of about that
yeah,
wide.
super wide.
Um, but yeah, I mean, as far as his paint job, when I had a
Stunning.
chance to see it for something that's dropped 2 weeks ago. Really good
Incredible.
job.
Yeah.
At the very least, he said it so that he can then take his time on making them like insane.
Yeah. Yeah. The game is really fun. It's super dynamic. The group that we had like was just like we're all good mates. So we celebrated everybody's successes and we jeered everybody's failures, which I kind of think adds to the enjoyment of the game. I don't know how well it's going to go as a competitive game, because I think it just like it's definitely beer and pretzels. You need to have a little bit of fun with it.
Yeah.
We should do a little spotlight on it later on to get my full thoughts. But
Yeah, maybe we'll have a couple more games and we'll really give a proper thoughts on tag raid.
yeah. So my highlights were that Tristan, an opponent, and I started very close together, and the game event, because you draw game events every round. The game event for round 1 was that you get double rewards from killing people, and you get burst 2 in CC. So that meant that aside from Tristan and I just completely ignored the giant worm threatening to devour us all, and just ran into CC with each other and started beating up each other's tags to see who came out on top. Spoilers, it was me.
Oh yeah,
I won the
it's
game.
only winners on this podcast
with Eugene supremacy.
Yeah. As far as what I've been up to, a couple of CanCon games. Obviously, went to the tournament, brought out the win. Whatever.
Nice work. Proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. But I've been just practicing for CanCon, so I played a game of unmasking. Got a chance to try out another list that I've sort of been playing around with, which was a Bakuna list with 2 chimeras in it and the Stigmatron.
Do you hate your opponents? Is that what's going on? Do you hate the people that you're playing
Yeah,
against?
every single person that was looking is like, what's going on? It's I don't know, we just say, oh, the chimera over there is doing something. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah. Wait, hold. And then they look, because I've got like a 3D printed chimera for when you couldn't really find it. And then they look and go, but wait, isn't that the chimera, like the actual new chimera models up there in the back of his base? Is like, yeah, that ate like half of his army.
So are you taking the demonists so you can just, without spending a command token, reserve drop both your chimeras?
Oh man, I didn't even think about that. That'd be really fucking funny.
Nomads have strategists now.
Yeah. No, I haven't done that. I still don't want an obvious lieutenant as far as nomads goes. Because I'm during
Isn't that always obvious?
well, for the Bakuna, you just take 4 moderators and then they have to guess.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
But yeah, no, the other than, I'm not gonna tell everybody of how well the Chimera did in close combat, even against JSA, because it's the fucking Chimera. But the Stigmatron, I really wanted to see what it would be like on unmasking, because it's this sort of, it can do, obviously press the buttons, it can shoot, and it did fucking fantastically. Right, push 2 buttons, killed 2 of the HVTs. Right, took out a whole bunch of other things by itself. And one of the good things about it is because it's so tall, it doesn't have super jump, but it jumping is like, you can very easily get from like the ground up to another level very easily. So it is a really mobile, really tough, really good fighting specialist. Which is great. The only thing I would say, and it probably needs this as a disadvantage, is, and it came up in our game of, the damn thing's religious. So if you get it, because if you get it caught out in the open, trying to get it back into cover on whip 13 can be a bit dicey sometimes. So I almost lost it.
Oh well, it's good though. I've been trying to gather people's thoughts on the stigmata in it, because it's a really interesting piece. And
yeah, it'll do well in missions that like sort of require push a button and then from that button go do something. But it sort of works weirdly in Nomads, in which I would say, if you were going to take the Stigmatron, don't take repeaters, because it's worth stage diving a killer hacker into it.
Oh yeah, big time.
Right. So you don't want to take repeaters, because it's they're just gonna fly forward if they're
Through your repeaters, it's on like BTS 9. It could probably stand taking against
it
Killer
could,
Hacker,
and
right?
it does have the neg 3. The biggest issue with it though is if they put a hacker next to a repeater, and every single move you have to either try and attack or you have to like reset. And all you're doing in that case is you're losing. One of the other really good things about the Stig is it's a very quick specialist, right? And if you're having to cut your movement down by 4 inches every single move because you have to either reset or try and like oblivion something, it's just not worth your time.
Yeah.
So, like things like I think the initiate that has the deployable repeater, or like the pitches and stuff like that. Unless you've cleared the board of any like real hacking threats, I wouldn't put them down.
Yeah,
Which is
absolutely. Jordan,
it's a little like anti-nomad to have that sort of thing, but it's just what you have to do with it.
Jordan, one of our patrons in the chat, is talking about being vulnerable to pitches, and he said he'd try and Dartok the crap out of the Stig, and I would be inclined to agree. The Dartok does do work, and against the Stig, it really would.
That's the other thing, as I would probably back it up with an Evo bot to put down firewall, because it's got ECM, right? Then you add the firewall, it's like neg 6 to hack it. It's got like essentially 9 BTS. So it's worth it, and it's worth it in that case
For sure.
But yeah, you've got to be careful of like Dartox and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, everyone's going to be careful of Dartox. They're incredible.
Yeah.
And they have Doggo, which is amazing.
They do.
Should we do move on? Challenge announcement.
Yeah.
We've
got slides for these, by the way.
Do we? Oh, we do. Look at that.
Oh, hold on.
We've got a December monthly challenge announcement. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals. Our holiday season upon us, and we realise not everyone may have time to get a game in for our monthly challenge. So this is open to any game of Infinity you've ever played. For our December monthly challenge, we want to know about the most enjoyable game of Infinity that you lost. I don't care about your wins. I only care about your losses, because you have so few, to quote Wolf of Wall Street. Submit your entry to us as a Google document at lossoflieutenant@gmail.com. And one random winner will be selected to win a blister of their choice from Toy Soldier Imports. And I'm not acknowledging what you're saying in the chat, Kev. We do care about major losses. We care about minor losses. We care about all losses. And as you may or may not know, we've got our quarter 3 and 4 hobby challenges and narrative story. You've heard it all before. Short story up to 2,000 words or a 10-minute audio recording submitted to Loss of Lieutenant. If you don't want us to read it, we'll do a dramatized reading of our favorites on the show. 2 random entries will win a small box set of their choice from Toy Soldier Imports. And our daily Patreon reminder for you guys: if you do want to support us, you can do so for $3 a month at patreon.com/lossoflieutenant. If you can't commit financially to support us, we get it. Times are tough. Just let us know you like us by liking, following, and leaving a review wherever you get your podcasts. And join our Discord.
Yep.
Invite
like our Facebook page, Loss of Lieutenant. Look at it. Freaking hell, subscribe and hit the freaking bell button on YouTube. Right at Loss of Lieutenant.
All the calls to action. Invite link to the Discord will be in the episode description. And if you become a Patreon, you can come listen to us live. Listen to all of our glorious voices, watch our faces as we sort out all of our technical difficulties, and read whatever Kevin is saying in the chat.
Yeah. Be called one of our glorious cocks.
What are we talking about today?
So today, we start with going over the CanCon lineup. That way we can remember what missions we're talking about. CanCon mission lineup for 2024 is going to be Unmasking, Bpong, Countermeasures, Armory, and Last Launch.
Brave men.
Yep. And as a reminder, CanCon 2024 will be on January 26-27 in Canberra in the ACT in Australia. I believe tickets are still available, but I could be wrong because I did not check before the start of the episode.
I think tickets are still available. I don't know if we've hit the cap yet, but I assume that they'll just keep selling tickets past the cap if we reach it. It was a pretty small cap, so hopefully we can reach it. I think the major highlights there are 2 armory missions in a
Yes.
tournament. What?
Yes. A whole day's worth of armory missions.
Crazy. Tables are going to be screwed. All right.
Should we jump into the lists?
Oh, yeah, let's jump in. I think we can
Okay.
just jump straight in. We've only been recording for 40 minutes, so.
Yeah.
40
Yeah.
minutes. 14.
So, first what we have up is Steve's Moritz. We'll start with his note about he probably will not make it to CanCon as he lives in the UK. However, if anyone would like to fly him here, he is open to, patronage.
Maybe BCB.
What we'll do, we'll make that like the, like $2,000 a month Patreon tier. We'll fly you out to every single CanCon so long as you're a member.
$2,000 a month.
Mm.
If you subscribe to the $100 a month tier, we'll save up all of that money and buy you flights to BCB, which is, I'm not going to say how BCB.
Yeah,
compares to CanCon.
we'll save the money by stipulating you have to stay at one of our houses.
So, his first list, he originally wrote it for Bpong and has run it in a tournament and thought it did pretty well into Bpong, and would like it to be expanded to cover armory and countermeasures. The mainstays of the groups. Sorry, should we read out or assume that they can see?
Read it out. No,
you
read it out. Read it out.
Do a check, read
Okay.
it out.
Okay. So, group 1, we've got an. I need to bring this up on my screen because it is too small for me to read on the stream.
Group 1 starts off with the Hungry Harris, as it's coined in Melbourne. Osnat fire team option, a Predator and a Gaki. We've got Anyat, a Ratarak NCO, a Yaugat multi-sniper, which I assume can be another Harris.
That is a Harris.
Yeah. 2 Icadrons and a Datarazi rounds up 9 orders in Group 1. Group 2 is a Suryat MSV-1 heavy rocket launcher, the mainstay of the faction. Suryat Lieutenant +1 order heavy machine gun. Kaitok, Dartok hacker, and a Mora Vanguard paramedic, rounding up a big old offensive/defensive core, and an M drone to round out 16 points. And that's a 9-6 split.
Yep. So, Group 1, he's got basically a bunch of order batteries for an offensive Harris. Goal: advance under smoke, push buttons, win prizes. Group 2, defensive core. Goal for this, he said, was to guard the beacon, hold the armory, do classifieds, and the M drone is there as a fast specialist.
As they do their job very well.
Yeah, some of his concerns that he wasn't sure if there were enough specialists in there for countermeasures. Noted the list doesn't have dechargers or engineers, and the potential vulnerability of heavy infantry to immobilization. So, go to the next slide.
We can.
I think it's a pretty solid list, and I moved the 2 Icadrons to Group 2, and that was it. Because this way, I like the order balance better there. Now Group 2 has 8 orders, and Group 1 has 9 orders, after you include 2 NCO orders. So this way, depending on which mission he's going into, he can commit one fire team or the other, or both.
Yeah.
So if, for instance, the board has a great sniper perch that he'd like to use for the first 2 turns of the game, he's not going to be wasting orders putting Anyat and friends up there, and he can just send the core link in to do the work.
Yeah. I think the main sort of issue is that the Harris you want to send forward, especially in like most games, which is the Osnat, Predagaki, the Hungry Harris.
Yep.
It doesn't include a specialist, so largely wasted in Bpong unless you want to hold one of the center objectives.
Yeah.
So having all of the orders in that group when you've got the other Harris having a multi-sniper, which you want to hang back a little bit. I agree with the change. I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah. Just for our blind watchers. Yeah, as you said, you just moved the Igadron, so now it's the Osnat,
Yep.
FTO, Predagaki, the Harris, Anyat, Raktarok, NCO, and Yagat multi-sniper. In the other Harris, and Dadarazi. And then you've got the Suryat, heavy rocket launcher, the HMG Suryat, who's also the lieutenant, a Kaitok. The Kaitok, that's not the medic, is it?
No, that's the S5 big heavy infantry guy.
Oh yeah, the one that can
with 10
potentially
rifles.
have the foyer back.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but this one's the 22-point budget profile with the
Yeah.
chain rifles and the flammage spears.
Which makes sense. Yeah, then
Mm.
Dartok Hacker, Morat Vanguard, M Drone, and then the 2 Igadrons.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So with the change, I felt this list could do armory, Bpong, countermeasures, and last launch. Because you wanted to cover Bpong, armory, countermeasures, but I think it'll cover last launch as well. You've got 2 groups in there that have specialists to get up, pull some tickets out, and you've got stuff that can hold the objective room while you're evacuating, and some decent point models that get them in there and then just start plucking them up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kevin does raise an interesting point. It doesn't have decharges, which means that
You're right. I did not put this in the slides. With not having decharges in engineers, there's only one card that it doesn't cover because of that.
which is
And
sabotage, right?
So if that card happens to come up, just bury it.
Yeah.
Make sure
I think that's a good thing about countermeasures is if your list can't do every single one of the objectives, that's the one you throw out. That's the one you're guaranteed to just be like, oh, I don't want it.
Yeah, and like something like sabotage is
Yeah.
very easy for a majority of army to sort to do. So it's probably a good one to not have available in your list that you can just chuck out if you need to.
The only other thing I'd say in this list, because he wants it to cover like armory, he wanted it to cover armory, is that that link, the main link, other than its pistols, doesn't have a lot of close range sort of stuff. They've got the Kaitok, sure, but the Suryats, with the immunity to AP, can really hold down a room.
Yeah,
I would potentially suggest somehow. I don't know how you shift it around necessarily, and we don't have the time for me to fiddle around with the list to figure it out. Is the multi rifle and light flamethrower Suryat gives you something that can deal with when they get up close in your face.
Yeah, the Kaitok can't go into the armory either, so that's an interesting.
That's true. That's a big consideration.
It can't, but it can still block a doorway.
Yeah,
and it can still hang out in the doorway and see the whole room.
Yeah.
Oh,
and just chain rifle everybody.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
Other than that, I mean,
I think the change was awesome.
Mm.
And obviously, like Steve said, that this is a list that he's been running for a while, and he's been and coming up with like big changes for such a tuned list is difficult in every circumstance. So I think that it's funny that even just pushing a just changing groups around changes the list so much. So really good pick up there.
Yeah. So with his second list, this was more trying to write a list that will pair with the first one that he has established to cover the rest of CanCon.
Right.
So that would be last launch and unmasking. Although I take a slightly different approach to that. So in this one, we start with.
We start with the Dartok hacker. Lieutenant
Go
option
ahead.
is Kornak, the
Mhm.
Kornak strategist level 1, Lieutenant +1 order. Kaitok, Rindak, paramedic, FTO, and a Yaogat multi-sniper, which I believe makes our core for us this time.
That does. Yep.
We have a cheeky Rassiat special operative, which is possibly one of the best pieces in Morats. As well as another Hungry Harris with just Osnat and 2 Predators, and an M drone rounding up Group 1. Group 2 has 2 Datarazis, a T drone, an E drone, and a Gaki in it. For a nice 10-5 split. Well, technically 12-5 if you count Kornak's orders.
Yeah. So one thing that he was going back and forth on was, do I want Kornak as my lieutenant? And his reasoning was, with Strategos, that gives those 2 orders puts them into regular orders, and that means that he can dump those into the Raziet when it comes on.
Yes.
And I think that is the right decision for this list.
The Rindak does make it impure, though, right?
It does, and I'll get to that. So his basic strategy has the Raziet specialist take advantage of border skirmishes and the exclusion zones. So have that come in, push buttons. It's a more aggressive core than the other list. He's got the M drone that wanted to use for sensor to kind of go ahead of that core and clear up anything that is hiding there. And yeah, Cordat's Strategos giving the extra order to the Raziet. Some of his concerns, he's running 3 remotes with no engineers. The Kaitok HRL was kind of a compromise, and the Suryat HRL would be better, but he doesn't have the points. And he'd much rather have a tin bot on that Dartok and a tin bot to protect the core link.
For sure.
So
right.
changes to that list. Yes. So based on the changes to his first list, the second list needs to cover unmasking. If it covers other missions, great, that's a bonus. I really like the plan for the Raziet SO, but I think it needs another forward specialist because one forward specialist I don't think is enough or reliable. So I pulled the Rindak out of the fire team and went with a forward deploy Rindak. And as you mentioned, yes, this restores purity to the fire team. I used this in place of the M drone because it's faster based on forward deploy. It's more survivable. It still has sensor. And it can get up there, push the buttons, and still has a good chance to kill an HVT and unmasking if needed. This also lessens the need for the list to have an engineer. So yeah, change the list going down. The Rindak FTO in the core, swap that out for a Vanguard paramedic. Upgraded the Kaitak HRL to a Suryat HRL with Tinbot. The Osnat's pets become Gakis because points. The M drone becomes the Rindak forward deploy BSG paramedic. And points wise, the E drone becomes another Gaki. So the list has 4 Gakis in it.
Yeah, and it should be pointed out that, like, I know the Predator has chain rifle, right? Or was it chain colt? Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But the speed of a Gaki means that because they explode, right? The decision of whether to shoot the Gaki or not is just as difficult as if it had a chain rifle. Because you shoot it, it moves up into your face, explodes, you still get hit with what was essentially a chain rifle. You don't shoot it and dodge or something like that, well, it's the same as if, I suppose the only thing is, you don't have to be worried about if you fail the dodge and he doesn't do something because, like, he doesn't have the chain rifle. But almost for the points you save, they're almost just as scary.
Also, Gaki's Fizz 14, so they dodge on 14s, climbing plus, and their 6/6 move with Berserk. So they can dodge around a corner on a 14 and then Berserk 12 inches.
Yeah.
Huge.
And can wall run to get that 12 inches.
Yeah.
So one of his initial notes was that the Gakis were in there, or the extra Gaki was in there because it could just double move up the table and get an exposed HVT that was 24 inches away when it started its move.
Yeah. So your new list is now the Dartok Hacker, right, which was already there. Kornak, which was already there. Like you said, you've upgraded your Rendak to the Suryat. So we got the Suryat MSC1 HRL with the firewall, the Yalgat multi-sniper, which I think is really
It was already
important.
there.
Yeah, but it's a really important piece to keep for defending.
Yes.
And then more rated Vanguard. It was like keeps that purity. Razjad operative, which I realized when you guys mentioned it, can only this particular mission with the border skirmishes just gets all the good places to land without having to roll for it. Right? It can land in the middle of the map, right? Either on your opponent's side or your side, or just fuck it and drop in the deployment zone.
Yep.
Yeah, so then the Rendak Paramedic, Osnat with 2 Gakis, then Dadarazi, just chain rifles, a T-drone, and 2 Gakis again.
Yep. So this takes care of giving him more midfield specialists, and also soups up the core fire team by restoring purity, giving it a better HRL, and gets a tin bot. So that helps to protect both the heavy infantry there and the hacker.
And a good thing about, and it was with this list initially, and I think it's slightly more there before, now, is this is meant for unmasking. Dadarazi, great for defending and unmasking. Just the ability to put smoke in someone's face to force them to come closer to your HVTs is awesome. But the Gakis are like weird mines. That can do, like, you don't have to move the Gakis. They can just sit there babysitting a HVT and just spring into action when needed. So I like the ability to defend.
That Group 2 has 5 models and 4 impetuous orders. That's a lot of movement to throw up the board, especially in unmasking, to just take space. And all those are disposable units that will take down their points worth at least.
Also, really good if you want to just impetuous up a Gaki, run it up into a HVT's face, and explode.
Yes. Yeah. So one alternative I had on this build, because he had mentioned liking the idea of having some spotlights there, especially for like ARO spotlights, and then using the T-drone on his turn. You can swap the Osnat Harris for 2 Icadrons and a Flashbot, and that'll provide better repeater coverage for spotlight arrows. It also provides better deployment zone coverage, and provides some other defensive pieces, specifically thinking the Icadrons, to put up near your HVTs. So anyone who comes near gets a flamethrower.
Yeah.
And that's more, I think that's just more personal preference.
Yeah. I think I don't know if the T-drone's necessarily needed in this list.
I'm not sure it is, but he liked it. It was one of the concepts he wanted in the list, and I think it makes sense enough to put one in one of your lists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I just think that definitely one in one of your lists. In this one specifically, I think I'd prefer the Rindak with the multi-rifle.
I originally had the Rindak with the multi-rifle, and it was a points thing. I could put an extra Gaki in there, or I could drop it to a boarding shotgun.
Like, while Rindaks are more survivable than than M drones. They are also just a bit of a wet paper bag. They do have they're heavy infantry with no wind in cap and one
Mhm.
structure.
Yeah.
Which means that you're not really doing, if you're trading with your boarding shotgun templates, I just don't think
Mhm.
that it's
Yeah.
super worth it. And it's a template that you have that isn't able to be used as an intuitive attack either.
Oh yeah.
So I think that having
Mhm.
probably just having the multi rifle to discover shoot with a multi
Mhm.
rifle with your sensor bonus
Yeah.
is arguably
Mhm.
much better than having than having the boarding shotgun. So I'd probably, if I was running this list, I'd
Mhm.
probably run the T drone out, put a Nicodron in or something,
Mhm. Yeah.
and upgrade the Rindak to a multi rifle. That's just
Okay.
my thoughts.
Yeah,
Nice.
I
Yeah.
would I would concur and even say that if you're not gonna go the multi rifle, I'd probably go the SMG. Because that extra one burst can really help against the crappy roll with the two
Mm.
shot shotgun against sometimes those HVTs can be real wily.
Yeah, you can
Mm.
go the other way and
Yeah.
downgrade the points. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And then you got points left over if you want a Predator in there or something else, I guess.
Yeah, I think with 4 more points, yeah, there's a fair number of things you can
I
tweak
mean,
with
look,
that.
that's the nature of Morites,
Mhm.
right? They just you
Yeah.
can drop points and move points around. It's so easy to do. We
There's
could
always
we could do an
there's always
entire episode of just like what we would change in this list by like swapping profiles,
Mm.
keeping the profiles the same and just swapping loadouts.
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yep. So yeah, list covers unmasking. It covers last launch, but personally, I think list one was better at last launch. However, having 2 lists that do the same mission, not bad.
Not a bad thing
Gives
at
you
all.
choice on the table.
Yeah. You do want an E-drone. I think you probably do want an E-drone in last launch. Maybe.
Mm.
I don't know. I haven't really decided whether you want an E-drone or not. Um, next up, we have our pimp will play number 2 is Tristan from Melbourne, who is attending CanCon. So arguably more important, but not as important because Steve is a patron. Uh, list one. Tristan's playing Cosmo. His first list was for BPON countermeasures and unmasking. It has a Rockhot Harris with a forward observer, a war driver Evo hacker, and the unknown ranger. Uh, Lieutenant Wallace, 4 Amandinos, Usha McNeil, a specialist operative with the assault pistol +1 burst, and a Warcore. Group 2 is Equip Mirage 5, Margot and Jurok, 2 Kataran T2 sniper rifles, a Kazakh doctor with 2 helper bots. His ideas for this one is just to have as much smoke as possible with the unknown ranger, dragging 2 specialists with him just to go wrapping everything else, bringing the 2 specialists that are probably 2 of the specialists that are the most important in countermeasures that you could possibly have, being a hacker and a forward observer,
Mhm.
I mean up the field,
Yes. Yeah.
uh, and um, yeah, he said Usha is an auto include for him. Also, he'll not take no for an answer. Does a few too many things that benefit Cosmo, especially for these missions.
Oh,
And
given that it's all exclusion zones and she's got infiltration plus, I completely agree.
completely agree with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Catarans are for aero duty and active turn shooting.
Mhm.
So my thoughts. My first thought is this is a scary AF list. I don't want to fight this ever at all, ever. Please don't do this to me ever. And it semi-reliably completes almost every classified card. The only thing we'd be worried about is that I thought that he'd be worried about was a classified card coming up in countermeasures that will preemptively force Margot to drop. Because because she can drop before Jurok or like separately from Jurok, it doesn't really matter. But having HI ones come out, and there was another one added, so there's now 2 HI ones in the classified deck rather than just the one from the last deck. having HI or a medium infantry in there, another HI or medium infantry in there, would be preferable. So what I did to do this was I downgraded one of the Catarans to a tractor mule Urigan, which is a bit of a spicy piece. I don't think people really enjoy them that much, but I have found a lot of mileage in Caledonia with the total reaction Urigan.
I had one of those bloody things almost take out an invincible army, like heavy infantry corps.
They're fantastic. AP and shock, great. And then this gives the Evo hacker something to concentrate on. So you can buff it with marksmanship, which is an interesting choice in a Cosmo list to have that available to you while he's being dragged around by the UKR, as well as it poses an ARO/guided threat in its own right. This gave me the points to side grade the Kazakh Doctor to the Stranic Doctor, so that gives you an extra medium infantry to give some classified redundancy, and is slightly more durable than the Kazakh Doctor. We're at 6 SWC and 299 points, so there are some points to play with there. The list is basically the same, just the Group 2 change of Group 2 now consisting of Equip Mirage 5, a Cataran T2 sniper rifle, a Stranic Doctor with 2 helper bots, and a Tractor Mule Urigan total reaction MRL.
While I get this list both before and after the changes, do we think, how much of a risk do you think it is the fact that he's got so many irregular orders? If Wallace goes down,
I mean, if Wallace goes down in any Cosmo list, you're gonna have a bad time.
True, but I mean, I've rarely seen one that relies so much on his inspiring presence.
Yeah, I run him with probably about anywhere between sort of 5 to 6 irregular orders in Caledonia. I haven't really ever seen Wallace go down in a game. I haven't really had to make someone make a concerted effort to take him down. But you've got a Tractor Mule, you've got a Cataran. Like a camo marker sitting in your DZ is like in Cosmo is a scary thing to come up against.
Yeah.
You don't want to take that fight at any range. Could be a Scots Guard missile launcher, could be the Cataran T2, either. I don't think that people are really going to give Wallace that much trouble. And like further to your point, I think the only other issue is that so many of them are impetuous, which makes it. But I often have trouble dislodging Ermendinos from places, so I think that
Fizz 14. Smoke grenades,
can be and just a chain rifle, man.
Yeah,
just a chain rifle does work.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense. You've got essentially chaff that you can't ignore, which is the Ermendinos, and you've got the Unknown Ranger, right? Getting into your face, and then even first turn, Durok drops down, and you're like, shit, I've got issues in my front, I got issues in my back. This is one that you're really gonna just have to keep your head on a swivel. You're gonna have to have so many. I feel like this list is going to catch most people by surprise.
I think it is too. I mean, Margot and Durok are semi like telegraphed in almost any list you're going to run.
Yeah, it's a big chunk. That's probably the other thing, is that because everything else is so cheap, it is a very obvious big chunk that's missing. That can only really be filled by one thing.
I mean, it could be 2 paracommandos, maybe. You've got a paracommando Spitfire and you've got a AP something. Maybe I can't remember exactly what the other.
Well, you'd be able to count. There'd be 14. Oh no, 13. Oh, you're right. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. No, you're right. Yeah, they're separate units. No, you are right. Yeah.
So 2 orders missing. with 66 points missing, with like approximately 65 or 70 points missing. Could be two paracommandos. It could be, well, I mean, it basically could be two paracommandos, or it could be Margot and Jurok. But there was some questioning there. Also, it's just refreshing to not see a Cosmoflot list start out with 4 rockets on a Volkalak, and I just wanted to shout out Tristan for making me smile.
Yeah, I
I
remember.
like the
No, go for it,
I
man.
like the 4 Ermendinos, especially for Bpong,
Yeah, phenomenal.
because this is a list that if you don't have MSV, you could potentially have the beacon in your own DZ. Because those are fast enough because they're all impetuous. With the smoke, again, if you don't have MSV covering the beacon, each one of those can come up and punt it once per turn. And then again, on your turn, trying to put it back, if you don't have MSV, they'll just smoke the whole area.
And with because they've all got booty, and with 4 of them, there's
Yes.
not an insignificant chance that one of them rolls a motorcycle.
Yes. Yeah.
Which means you touch the beacon with one, run up the next, touch the beacon with the other one, and then this guy on a motorcycle drives up, touches it with the last.
Yeah.
The only thing is if he doesn't manage to surprise his opponent, which I don't think is a hard thing for him to do, it might be somewhat difficult to hold things in Bpong. So he has to go hard, and that hard push really has to pay off. Because if, let's say, Durok drops down and flubs everything, then your opponent can turn around and go, right, I'm going to deal with the guys that are holding the objective. That is, of course, if Tristan's forced to go first. If he's forced to go second, I could definitely see that if he's forced to go second, his first turn might just be like getting no points essentially and just wrecking someone's back line.
Well, I think that's ideal.
Yeah.
And you can always just swap, because Margot and Jurok are separate troopers. You can swap groups that they're in individually. So you can, when you're in the game, you can just push. If you need Margot in Group 1 after your Warcores died or whatever, or you need Jurok in Group 1, you can just swap Jurok into Group 1, and he can go Wrecking Face from there. It's especially with only having 5 orders in Group 2.
Did we read out what your new list looks like?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
I just
Awesome.
changed the group sounded like. Okay, and list number 2. So this one, mission coverage for this one was Bpong countermeasures and unmasking, and I think it covers them all pretty well. Ermendinos do a lot of work, and that didn't change from the last list. So next, list number 2, which is for Armory and Last Launch. We've got the list is an Unknown Ranger with 2 patches, 1 Vulcan shotgun and 1 heavy flamethrower patcher, a Varangian and a Wallace LT, and that makes up a core. It can be a 4-man core. It can be a Varangian Harris with a patcher and the Unknown Ranger, which is a fairly common one as well. We've got the Polaris team, so the regular bear, the non-impetuous bear, another War Driver Evo hacker, 2 Ermendinos. And Group 2 is Uxia McNeil, 2 Cataran multi-snipers, T2 sniper rifles, a Walker. He's strangely put a 6th Sense one in there, but I assume that's actually supposed to be the 360.
I assume that's a typo.
Yeah. And a Kazakh doctor with the helper bot. Can I just say again, I think that the really inspired choice here is taking the War Driver Evo Hacker. I think the War Driver Evo Hacker is such an inspired choice for these 2 lists. It does provide benefits in Armory and Last Launch, providing an extra order, but it has some subtle benefits as well, and we'll get into those in a second. And Tristan said that you can run the Unknown Ranger on a call with Wallace and a Varangian and 2 patches, or a Harris with a Varangian and a patcher. In last launch, the Unknown Ranger and friends run up the table, extract people, and Unknown Ranger does his job of killing everybody he lays eyes on. Patches lock down the objective room in Armory and last launch probably as well. And bears provide psychological area denial. Thank you. Catarans and walk off arrows as usual. So with this one, I call this a slightly more what you would say standard Cosmo list, but again, only just because you see the bear and you see a patcher, you see patches and you see the Unknown Ranger. But again, it is different to the standard ones that you do see out there. So my issue was with the Varangian was required for the core / Harris to be formed, which means to get both patches into the armor, you need to take the Varangian with you. So Tristan seemed to want flexibility with that link in his with his notes. So I think that there's not much we can change about the list, or change about that specific section of the list without squeezing points for Scott's Guard, a Front-of-Vic, or a Cosmo Soldat to make the Cosmo link rather than the Varangian link. So that's what I did. I said bye-bye to one of the patches. I removed the Varangian, and I added in the Cosmo Soldat Specialist Operative, which happens to be, I think, one of the best close assault pieces, not only in the faction, but in the game.
First 5.22 rifle, baby.
Heavy flamethrower, Panzerfaust, they've got it all. Wallace can't go into that fire team because he can only go in the Varangian fire team in Cosmo. No great loss. It frees up his coordinated order. His lieutenant order to be used more liberally with the bear and the 2 Emendinos. So what I've written here, what the list is now a Harris of a Cosmo Soldat Specialist Operative, which is a T2 rifle +1 burst, a heavy flamethrower, and a Panzerfaust, and an AP heavy pistol, which is another big one. The Unknown Ranger with the AP Spitfire and a heavy flamethrower patcher. Wallace Lieutenant on his own, a Polaris team, War Driver Evo Hacker, 2 Emendinos. Group 2, we have Usha McNeil, 2 Catarans, a Warcore, and a Kazakh Doctor. Yes, that does mean that we have a 9 and 5 split. We are down 1 order. There is some wiggle room in there. You could maybe fit something else in, but people who aren't well versed with the faction and faking an AD trooper is never a bad thing. The only other thing I probably would do is maybe try and squeeze the Catarans into the same group as Wallace, because 2 Catarans is an amazing use of a coordinated order. If someone's got
Ariadna,
if someone's got a
coordinate with things, and you have to make a choice, and none of them are good.
Yeah, a Yaugat sniper, multi-sniper rifle sitting on ARO, or even a Suryat multi-sniper rifle. You go, cool, two Catarans coordinated order. I've got 2 T2 rounds coming at you. You might fail one of them, and that's going to send you down.
Yeah.
It's not a horrible idea. This list does cover Armory and Last Launch, and I think it covers them both pretty well. What do you guys think?
I really agree with removing the Varangian, because if I was to play into this list and seen he's got a heavy core completely formed off of 1 skirmisher, that's single wound. They're dogged, but I'm fine waiting that out.
Yeah, I mean,
now
unless the Varangian is the fire team leader, it doesn't destroy the fire team, even if the glue is gone. That's only a creation requirement, not a cancellation requirement. So not a cancellation clause. So even if you kill the Varangian, the link and if he's not the fire team leader, the fire team does stay together.
Okay.
So I think that that wasn't really my concern. It was just that you're not using its impetuous order. I just didn't think it was useful, and I think a Cosmo Soldat does it so much better, especially for the two armory mission, the two objective room missions that we've got this sorted for.
Yeah. Well, especially because you're replacing the Patcher Vulcan with a Cosmo Soldat T2 rifle +1 burst and heavy flamethrower, so it will do everything that Patcher would have done.
But maybe slightly better because
Yeah.
it's 10 points more expensive.
Yeah.
And this brings me why the Evo Hacker is a bit of an inspired choice. The Patcher and the Cosmo Soldat are two of the very few heavy infantry in Ariadne that are hackable, which means you can chuck a firewall on those bad boys. Gives the war driver something to concentrate on.
The other thing is last ditch effort. The Evo Hacker in last launch doesn't have to pick up a token; it can just extract itself.
And some of the rhetoric online is that you kill everything that your opponent's got, and then you extract your Evo Hacker, and that is last launch. I think that we're going to probably find some different tactics around it, but
I think, however, that Cosmo sort of have to concentrate on that sort of thing. Looking at the two lists, it's not something you can really fix because it's a Cosmo problem when interacting with last launch. There's not necessarily a big unit to pull out in just Cosmo in general. Whereas if you take a look at Azura, the Hacker, or one of those big pieces, right, they can just pull themselves out and cost at least 2, if not 3 Cosmo models. So there is a need to be just sort of conservative with Cosmoflot in last launch, because if you lose the Unknown Ranger, if you lose the Unknown Ranger and the Cosmo Soldat, it's only 2 units, but it's the 2 most expensive units you have.
Yeah.
Right, but like I said, it's not something you can really fix. It's more of something to be aware of. Anybody running Cosmo for last launch.
Absolutely.
One other interesting thing about having the war drivers in Evo Hacker, and this is kind of true for Combined as well, is that it is not an S4. It can get places that most Evo Hackers can't.
Yeah.
The only issue around that is that every other faction has a baggage bot as its Evo Hacker, which means it provides 20 more points.
Oh, fair. Yeah.
So,
we're going to go back and forth probably from advantages and disadvantages for a while. Is that the Evo Hacker, not being a REM, can cautious move. So if someone's really locked down the last launch, you're like, oh, I don't care. I'm just going to cautious move my way in there, and my last run from the door to the console won't make a difference whether you kill me or not, because I still count as extracted.
Yes.
Absolutely. Jacob, do you want to take us away?
Yes. So I have taken a look at Ed's submission of a couple of Varuna lists, which is appropriate because he kicked the shit out of me at Anzac with his Varuna lists. So he has a list. Oh, and if anyone's ever noticed, when I was speaking to Ed, Ed likes to put his second group that you would typically have as his first group. So he has in his first group is 2 Helot submachine gun, 2 Helot militia with submachine gun and light rocket launcher, a Zulu Cobra killer hacker with a breaker combi, Peacemaker which heavy shotgun and the and an auxiliary bot, Fugazi just a flash pulse bot. Then he has an Orc Feuerback, a Varuna division Orc Feuerback. Core link with a Fusilier hacker, Fusilier paramedic, Fusilier lieutenant, and a Fusilier, plain Fusilier. He then also has a Kamau heavy rocket launcher, Patsy, Garnet, and a Varuna machinist, and 2 Knights of Montesa. One with Red Fury and one with a boarding shotgun. The idea is that he's got sort of this defensive sort of ball going in his group 1 with the 2 Helot and the Zulu Cobra. With the Peacemaker, I think the idea is to be able to push a sort of a repeater around to help that Fusilier hacker actually do its hacking. Then you've got what it amounts for a defensive fire team with that orc with the Feuerback, and the rest of the Fusiliers, with the potential of like kind of being able to push it out because the Feuerback doesn't have awful range bands.
Now, you don't sleep eat.
Sleep eat?
You don't sleep eat.
Probably not, no.
No, but you do sleep walk.
Listen.
Sorry, guys. What the? My computer just started playing random noises.
Odd.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry about that. And then the Kamau, Patsy, and the Machinist are in one group, are in a Harris, and then the Knights of Montestas are a duo. He in this list he can do every single objective other than HUT identity check, which requires some sort of visor or it requires sensor. He's also with this list he's also concerned with his lack of MSV1. So we go to what I changed on his list.
Yep.
So what I changed on his list, the first thing I changed is I've always found that the Fusilier link, like core link with a missile launcher, has always been pretty close to being invincible. The Fusilier missile launcher is just such a freaking good shot at BS-15. That, I mean, it's the same. It shoots just as well in a pure core as the Orc does in the impure core. They're both BS-15. Right? Yes, the Orc is more resilient. So what I've done is I've taken that Orc out of that team. I've put in the missile launcher. But we still got the lieutenant. We still got the fake lieutenant, which is just the plain Fusilier. We still got the paramedic. The other thing I did is because he wanted this to cover armory as well as countermeasures, because he wanted it to cover armory, I've got the Kamau still with the heavy rocket launcher and submachine gun. I've still got Patsy, but I've moved the Orc into this Harris, right, getting rid of the machinist, and made it the Winter 4 Orc. The reason I did that is because it has a multi-rifle as well as the firewall. The Knights of Montestas I've kept identical. I think that fast blob is great for armory. You just drive up to the door, they both get off their bikes and just walk into the armory, sit there with mimetism and with the Red Fury in suppressive fire. In his defensive defensive group, I haven't changed the Helots. The submachine gun light rocket launcher has always been a really good choice, given the fact that it's cheaper. It does take up a 1 SWC, which is unfortunate. I've put the machinist there as well. I've put the machinist in this group, and I've still got the Peacemaker heavy shotgun bot. What I have done as well, though, is I've changed the Zulu Cobra from being the killer hacker to the triangulated fire and sensor Zulu Cobra, which allows him to get every single one of those objectives done. What this ends up looking like is two Helots with submachine gun and a light rocket launcher, a machinist, the Peacemaker, Zulu Cobra with triangular fire and sensor. Then you got Fusilier lieutenant, Fusilier hacker, Fusilier combi rifle, Fusilier missile launcher, Fusilier paramedic. Then the Kamau heavy rocket launcher, submachine gun, Patsy submachine gun and grenades. I think she's only got one profile. The Winter 4 Orc with multi-rifle and Tinbot. The Tinbot helps also protect the Orc and Patsy, who are both heavy infantry. Then the two Knights of Montestas. And I've done that to try and make that Harris just a bit tougher for to get rid of in like a hacking a heavy army that might just shut down Patsy and might just shut down the orc while they're trying to hold the armory.
Yeah. Kevin Patsy's a forward observer, which is probably the only reason she's in there.
Yes, that's true as well. Yeah.
I don't know about the change of the Zulu Cobra. It means that you've traded doing one classified, which is the sensor one, being able to do that one classified with the ease of doing about 6 more, which are all the hacking ones. So having a Fusilier hacker, I don't think is going to do the job of doing the job of all of those.
The thing is that
classifieds.
Thing is that the Zulu Cobra killer hacker can only do one of the hacking.
Well, 2, the HVT one, and so the data scan HVT one, and the data scan trooper one.
It can do HVT espionage, mapping, and data scan. So but you're right, it can't do the spotlight ones.
Yes, but mapping can also be done by Patsy.
And so can the
Correct.
spotlight ones.
Yeah. Most of the ones that it could do can also be done by Patsy.
Yeah. But it's just ease. Like, if you're moving a Fusilier hacker to do 2... If you're moving a Fusilier hacker out of your DZ when you've got a Fusilier missile launcher as your ARO piece, I don't think. I don't. It's a bit weird.
For a lot of them, I think you're relying on the Peacemaker to be that repeater, so you can do the spotlighting.
Right.
Right, and you've got Patsy as a forward observer that can do them as well.
Sure.
But yeah, you've got the 2 hacking ones, which
you've traded 2 hacking classifieds that could be completed easier with the Zulu Cobra for one classified with identity.
And that's where, like, I haven't written it down there, but that's where the alternatives come in, because this particular one, the triangulated and sensor one, is more expensive than the killer hacker. Right. So if you want, you can change that Zulu Cobra back, right, to be that killer hacker. Alternatively, and this is one thing I wanted to bring up, because it was used for armory, the Winterfell Orc can be changed to the Varuna one, which keeps with a boarding shotgun, which keeps the stealth throughout all of this harass, but also gives the Orc climbing plus, which allows it to do silly things like run up the last launch and armory walls and stand on top of a door.
Kevin raises an interesting point. The jammer is a good include on the Zulu Cobra.
Yes, true. That was the other reason I put him in. That is true.
I like him in there for armory, yes, because there's a jammer that you can sit him outside the armory. Jammer also, you've got sensor, so you can sweep around just in case they start to, say, put in a bunch of camo markers into the armory. You walk him right up to the edge and just censor the armory.
So there are reasons to have that Zulu Cobra there. I took a look, and at one point I did have that Zulu Cobra as like a crocman, like a normal hacking crocman. So you can also sort of shift points around. I think if you just drop the points on the Orc, you can change that Zulu Cobra into a crocman, like regular hacker. You have to do some other things. You have to probably also drop the Fusilier hacker. So that's also another possibility. There's a lot of like bits and pieces you can play with here as far as like the hacker goes. But I do think if you want to use like that harass to hold the armory, that it needs to be as tough as possible. And with the sort of middling whip that Pano has, that firewall for Patsy and the Orc could really come in clutch. I mean, the only other way to get that sort of firewall going is to, again, fiddle with the points to get in a Evo bot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
Hi, James.
Before we move on to list 2, do you want to take a quick break?
Yeah, sure. Let's
Should
do
we
that.
finish list 2 and then do a break?
Oh, up to you.
Just to round out, like
Okay.
having finished 2 lists each.
All right, we'll do list 2. All right, so this is list 2. This was sort of for unmasking. Ed mentioned that he hadn't had a chance to take a look at B-Pong, to play B-Pong or last launch. So he's really only got ones for like armory countermeasures and unmasking, which is fair enough. Those are the 2 new missions. So he's got in this one his first group is mostly the same. So again, 2 helots. I should say all these helots are camouflage helots. With a submachine gun, light rocket launcher. He's got a Tech B specialist operative, a Zulu Cobra killer hacker, Peacemaker bot, a machinist with a power bot. This is just a regular machinist, not the Varuna machinist. Then he's got a Squallow Mark II, 9-1 Tessa paramedic, a Kamau, 2 Kamau MSV2 multi-snipers linked with a Fusilier forward observer, paramedic, lieutenant, and another Fusilier, as well as a war core. So this has essentially like a 6-man link. So if one of the guys goes down, he's able to reinforce the link with the other Fusilier, keep it at a 5-man. And he's also looking to try out the new, slightly smaller Squallow, sorry, with the HMG and the grenade launcher. For the idea of obviously just being a good shooting Pano tag, as well as a damage 15 grenade launcher.
Yeah, spec firing on 9s with a damage 15 grenade launcher is scary.
Yeah, I've also noticed that I sort of missed is that he is looking at potentially running a duo of the Squallow and the Knights of Montesa, which is good enough just for like I don't think you get a huge amount of synergy necessarily in that. I suppose the Knights of Montesa is a good sort of guard for the Squallow because it's got obviously the martial arts as well as the templates. But for order efficiency, it's great, and it means they're not going to get separated.
It's, if nothing else, it's a way to slingshot your specialist up the board.
Yeah, exactly. It means you don't have to choose between moving the specialist and moving and shooting. You can just do both.
Yeah.
And your changes.
Yeah. So my changes. So his the way he was organizing his group was doing my head in. So that's the first change. His second group is now as a second group should be. However, so the idea of his first list was to like really defend against things coming at him, like armies that need MSV. So things like Steel Phalanx, things like I don't know, Ariadna. I mean, we saw the amount of smokes that Tristan's had. However, the 2 Kamals means that army then becomes really vulnerable to white noise. Right? Yes. Right. He's got a 5-man link. He's got surprise shot. But I literally experienced it during a tournament where if someone can put white noise in the face of an MSV2, even with Sixth Sense, your opponent gets to decide when you get to shoot.
Yeah.
Right, which means that they get to decide. Yeah, they get to decide when they're going to shoot. However,
and being in a link, there's a much better chance he can get both of them with 1 white noise.
Yeah, exactly. However, I don't disagree with him taking at the very least 1. I think he should have a non-MSV option, right, to counter that sort of white noise. So the first thing I've done is the link is now, it's still 6 people. I wanted to keep that for him, but as a Fusilier missile launcher with a Kamau Kamau MSV2 multi-sniper, then still Fusilier paramedic, Fusilier lieutenant with 2 plain Fusiliers. Also helps hide your who your lieutenant is. We've still got the Knight of Montesa, a paramedic, and the Squallows in the same group, as well as a Fugazi drone bot. because he wanted this to be for unmasking, I've added in Uma Sorensen. And I've added in her forward deployment camouflage profile. Because I think the previous list didn't quite have enough button presses for unmasking. At that time, I think he only had the paramedic and the Zulu Cobra. Right, which technically, yeah, is enough, but I think having just one more, like one spare one in your pocket, would be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, you do get points for being the last to press a button in unmasking because they do swap. So having multiple specialists do the job, considering that the paramedic Nana Monteza is a close assault piece as well that is often used that way in Pano. Having a bit of redundancy there is definitely a good idea.
Yeah. Then I've got I kept the 2 Helots with the submachine gun and rocket launcher. I've changed the Zulu Cobra to a forward observer. Looking back at it, I'm not entirely sure why I did that. Considering that I suppose I didn't quite have the points to get the killer hacker. Because I wanted to make sure I included a machinist with a power bot to obviously fix up the Squallow, and I wanted to put in the Mulebot Evo hacker because of just for one, it provides again that firewall for the Squallow, where even before when he had just the killer hacker, there wasn't a lot of defense against hacking in his lists. And the Mulebot's an easy way of providing it, as well as if he really likes his list and wants to use it for some of the other missions, it does allow him to get that extra order.
We should probably swap it into Group 1 then, if you wanted an extra
The reason I put it in here, having played with Ed, is played against Ed. We've got my ass kicked by Ed. I think it's useful to have that extra order to put into the Zulu Cobra, as well as potentially the extra order to put into the Helots, just so that they can reposition.
Yep.
As well as if you really want to put a bunch of orders into that machinist, let's say the Squallow's a little out of position, right? Having 4 regular orders in those particular missions would be worth it. Right, that's the only reason it's in that group. So yeah, I find this has got a couple more button presses. It's less vulnerable to white noise. But you can again swap out Uma for another Zulu Cobra. If you don't necessarily want to spend the points on like her forward like the extra on her forward deployment. And you can swap out Uma to put a bigger gun in the Fusilier link, so you can like cheapen up Uma and put in, instead of a Fusilier missile launcher, like an Orc for your back. So have that, because you're already dealing with impurities in that link, so you could add in armor and a slightly better shot.
Yep. Yeah, I like it.
I like Uma in there. It just provides something that you don't expect to see in a
Yeah.
Pano list.
Well, that's look, I'll be honest, this was slightly inspired by, so when I originally made this list, I put the cutter where the Scoreless was. And the reason I did that is because when I played Ed, this is slightly inspired by the list that he kicked the shit out of me with. And then I went, okay, he wants to try the Squallow, pull out the Squallow, pull out the cutter, put the Squallow in, see where I can put the points then. And that's exactly what happened when he was playing me, is he was like, this camo token is Uma. I was like, who? Who is this person in your list? And she did tons of work. So
yeah,
I think
was great.
I think Pano's almost falling into Toha territory where people just don't know what's in any of the sectorials anymore. And you're like, this is Uma, and you're just like, I don't know who that is.
Well, one of the previous lists you mentioned about assassinated the HVTs and unmasking, about going with a submachine gun over a boarding shotgun, and looking going, or submachine gun +1 burst.
Look at you
Um,
remembering about what I was
yeah.
thinking about at 10 o'clock last night. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the other reason I had her in there, is another sort, like, it's so that she can camouflage, move up the board,
Mhm.
right? Like in between buildings, get up to the HVT. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of orders because she's not particularly quick. But she can camoufage, get up, and shoot things along with what the Zulu Cobra can do. The same thing is that he can go camo state, move up forward,
Yeah.
and kill a HVT.
You could if you wanted to go the Zulu Cobra hacker, you could probably drop the Fugazi down to a Tech B.
Yeah,
Would be
that was the one thing I wasn't quite sure. I suppose the Tech B was just another specialist, but I think something like Uma or Zulu Cobras is better than she's
Is Uma a
cheap.
specialist? I don't know the.
Sorry. Yeah,
Is
Uma is a
Uma-
Uma
forward
is special
observer.
ops.
Yes, special ops. Yeah, one of those two.
Yeah, she's just special ops. So not classified, but she can push any other buttons.
Yeah, which
Great.
this list is not made for necessarily any of the classifieds, although it probably could do everything in counterintelligence.
It could, but not
does it have a hacker?
efficiently.
Doesn't have a hacker in it. Oh, it does have the Evo bot.
Evo hacker?
Nah. Yeah, wouldn't do it counterintelligence for this particular
Countermeasures, yeah.
countermeasures. Yeah.
All right.
Why
quick
did
break
your
then.
mule bot just run into my DZ and touch a building?
Yeah.
Jesus, that's a lot of orders spent on a meal bot.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we'll come back and take a look at a couple more lists.
Some more lists.
Okay.
Welcome back, everybody, from our break. We're going to continue on with our pimping of our listeners' lists. We just finished off Ed's Varuna, and we are moving on to even such a hipster niche choice is Luke's Jeru's.
Yes.
So who did this one? Who tortured themselves with this one?
Oh, not torture. This was a pleasure to do. But I also run Hawk and Deshot, and so Drew's is not that far away. So, Luke's committed to running Drew's for up to and to CanCon. Initially, he liked the draw of the Smoke MSV2 link shooting, having good pictures, having cheap Merc CC units, and access to the fun camo or pano combat rems. Figured the lack of exclusion zones was going to counteract the list's lack of cheap infiltrating specialists because there's nowhere to infiltrate them. Likewise, having the protection of the exclusion zone from infiltrating pieces means that the obvious lieutenant choice is going to be slightly more bearable. So, first list was designed for countermeasures. Group 1 has a core link of a Drew's Killer Hacker, a Brawler MSV2 Multi-Sniper, a Brawler Doctor, a Brawler Lieutenant, and Tao Wu. Then it's got Denma, the new... I can't remember what he's supposed to be.
Dylan Krieger.
Yes. A Brawler Hacker, and a Clipper Drawn Bot. Those three form a very weird Harry's that looks like they should have nothing to do with each other. Then he's got Saito Togon and a Peacemaker with Oxbot. Group 2, he's got a Monstrucker Drop Bears with Helperbot. Has a Warcore. Then has Armand, MSV1. Yon Yon, and a Camille, so an Evo hacker bot.
Also has the Warcore with 6 cents, which is
Oh yes. Apparently, our listeners know something about war cores and 6 cents that we don't.
it's basically 360 if you get attacked, and you also get a you also get an attack. You can cancel out smoke disadvantages and surprise. So.
Yeah. So like technically you can use it against smoke. That's about it.
Yeah, but yeah.
So, core can smoke shoot and lob pitchers. The Haris is there to do ARO spotlighting and missiles. He did make the note of, yes, I realize it's a Whip 12 spotlight, which is why it will be mostly used in ARO. Group 2, and then he has Saito and Peacemaker for attack pieces. Group 2 is mostly disposable, so stuff to throw in the way, and then has Armand to ask some hard ARO questions.
And that
He
he's very good at doing.
Yes, he presented a fair walkthrough of his logic of different stuff, and some of the different options he was considering was putting in a TR bot, putting in a Hunzicut, Fiddler, and possibly the Drew's EM grenade launcher. So, considering the list was focused on countermeasures, you can go next slide.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Considering the list was focused on countermeasures, I think Fiddler is going to serve it much better than Saito. She can do 8 classified cards by herself. Adding a Hunzicut doesn't provide additional classified card coverage when there's already a hacker and engineer in there, but it provides some more resilience to having your specialist scalpeled out, since it has a camo state. Hunzicut also makes the list better for unmasking and Bpong, or masking Bpong and last launch. I went with the ballistic, or with the, I swapped the boarding shotgun Hunzicut FO for the rifle light shotgun because it has mines and repeater. That, however, is more playstyle, so either Hunzicut really works. Because he already had 4 SWC locked in with the multi-sniper, hacker, guided missile, and Evo, that left room for either Armand or EM grenade launcher or TR bot. And look at this, I went with Armand because for the ARO and the points worked out better. So I ended up swapping Saito for Fiddler, dropped the Monstrucker, Nazmat, and Warcore, and in their place put in a Hunzicut Forward Observer with the rifle, light shotgun, and mines, and put in a second Yon Yon. So the list is now Group 1, core of Drew's Killer Hacker, Brawler MSV2 Multi-Sniper, Brawler Doctor, Brawler Lieutenant, and Tao Wu. The Harris is the same, Denma, Brawler Hacker, and Clipper. Then we've got Fiddler without any jackpots, and a Peacemaker with Oxbot. Group 2 is 2 Yon Yons, the Camille Evo Hacker, Hunzicut Forward Observer, and Armand MSV1. So it benches, well, to start off with, Fiddler covers 8 classified cards. So that takes a lot of pressure off, and she's fast and can get there to do them. The Hunzicut provides an extra midfield specialist that's more protected because it's got a marker state. Potentially because it has repeaters, it could also set up more spotlight AROs for the missile bot. Some alternatives, you can swap Armand for a TR bot, and then you have to do that. You have to take the second Yon Yon and make that a. Or sorry. Let me start over again there. To get Fiddler for Jackbot, you can swap Armand for a TR bot and the second Yon Yon for a Flash bot. Then Fiddler gets both her Jackbots and a Helper bot. The Helper bot then can go sit by the TR bot. So this will do countermeasures, unmasking, and probably Bpong, but I'm not. It's not as strong, but it can probably pull it off. One thing I do like with the second Yon Yon is that means now you can choose to either Evo drop or combat drop both of them. In which case, if you want to, you have the Evo hacker to get them up to 14s. You could take one of them and deploy it with the link to smoke the MSV2 sniper. And if you do that, it might throw your opponent off to thinking that you've already committed your combat drop troops. So I like that little extra uncertainty in what you present to your opponent.
It's also just 16 points, so it's something that
Correct.
you're not. I certainly wouldn't think anything of it that he's missing 2 yarns.
Yeah.
Other than the fact that he's down 2 models, but everything everything there is already vaguely expensive-ish, because I know I know Druids and Brawlers are pretty up there as far as points are concerned.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you look at the point cost of the list, there's nothing that's that expensive, but there's nothing that's cheap either.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think because I spoke to Luke
Mhm.
about just Druids in general, is that
Mhm.
I think any mission that involves holding things is going to always be a challenge. They don't have the toughness
Mhm.
Druids. But yeah, I think the addition of Fiddler over Saito, makes huge amount of sense. Plus her drop bears, as far as defending
Mhm.
things goes, can be really invaluable.
Yeah. I prefer the list without her jackpots, and that is a first for me. I just give her jackpots by default. However, in this particular list, wanting to go into countermeasures and unmasking, I think it's safer to put her without her jackpots because it takes the target off of her. If people look across the table and see Fiddler with jackpots, they go, that is an alpha, I need to stop it. If they look across the table and see Fiddler with nothing, her priority goes down.
Yeah.
And that leaves her more open to going out, doing classifieds, setting up weird attack angles on HVTs, just going out there and having fun putting out drop pairs.
I'd almost say that this is like a good countermeasure is unmasking, and then your suggestion to go to the TR bot, and give Fiddler 2 jackpots is good for, is good for like all the holding armory last launch B-pong sort of thing. Because I mean, Armin is nice, but I think the TR bot's probably a little bit better with defending, given that
Yes, Armand's better at watching long, narrow corridors, but TR bot is better at defending an area.
Yeah.
You could possibly take out Tao Wu and change him for a regular brawler with a rifle light shotgun. That'll free up enough points to give Fiddler 2 jackpots and a Nazmat. I would prefer Fiddler to have a Nazmat. The only reason why is because one, you've got a Peacemaker as a close assault piece, and you've got a Clipper in a Harris, which means it's burst 2 in ARO.
Yes.
So having the Clipper up in ARO it could be such a potentially be such an important thing for this list. So having a Nazmat just sitting behind it, going, "Hey, I'm just going to get you up if I need to," because they're so resilient. Like Clippers and not Q drones, Sierras for Drews, but they're the 2 levels of unconscious state and the shock immune from being a remote makes them very resilient.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it probably wouldn't be too hard to try to eke out another 2 points, especially we're talking about Taewoo.
Just drop
to get
Taewoo
her
for a brawler.
Yeah.
For a brawler, lieutenant.
The other thing you could do, I'm just trying to see, is another thing you could do is you could potentially. Oh no, it's the FTO profile. I was thinking you could downgrade Denmark Connolly, but it's the one without smoke. So
yeah,
I mean, I suppose if he's there for sort of like defense and not necessarily throwing so much smokes, you do have some real precision smoke with those 2 Yarn Yarns. You could
Yeah.
downgrade Denma. He's just there really to defend an area, make it into a Zellenkrieger FTO, which has got the burst 2 pulsar and all that, and still got the reroll meta chemistry. You could do that.
Okay.
Does
That's an interesting
something
choice.
to get like a couple extra points to get that. I think 8 points. Yeah, so you get 4 points out of that, so you can get yourself that Nazmat.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a bit I'm not across Zellenkrieger, so it'll be fun to have a look at them.
Yeah, I just don't know if it's worth necessarily losing. Like Denma's can be pretty nasty.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I think I would rather downgrade Taewoo than Denma.
Yeah. I mean, really, Taewoo only like the counter intelligence, and if you're like me, unlucky enough to run right into him.
Is it?
Oh,
is it
yes.
because the martial arts?
He's like an anti-martial arts guy.
Well, no, like the only difference between him and the Zellenkrieger is one more point of fizz of martial arts.
The Zellenkrieger is also not impetuous, irregular, while Denma's regular.
Right, true. Yeah.
But the main thing is Denmar in the team still gets the smoke grenades, whereas the Zellenkrieger can only link with the FTO, which has no smoke grenades.
All right. Moving on to the second list.
Yes. So second list is designed to be more aggressive. Wants to try to get a nice solid core into the armory. So looking at Diggers, Denma, Wolfgang, and enough specialists to pull off last launch too. Was a little concerned about the specialists because Scarface and Cordelia aren't quite the best specialists to be up the field.
Mm-hmm.
Is the only specialist in Scarface just the fact that he's the pilot?
Correct, the pilot. Yep. Yeah, as I said, not the best specialist.
He's a Whip 13 specialist operative, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the list? The list is
Okay. So starts off with Wolfgang, Brawler, Denma, and 2 Diggers to form a core.
interesting.
Then there's Scarface with Gamma, so that's AP Spitfire plus 1 burst. Cordelia, a Brawler Lieutenant, who just kind of exists. Bulleteer, and a Motorized Bounty Hunter. They form a duo. So idea with those is you've got a nice attack vector to should there be a approach that is not does not have good ARO coverage, you can speed them up and just do an attack run. Group 2 is a Peacemaker with Oxbot, Camille, so Evo Hacker, a Fugazi Flashbot, a Yon, and a Sierra Drawnbot, so HMG TR. Yeah, so idea, really aggressive, resilient core that he can put in the armory and sit there. Got the fast attack duo. Scarface said was more in there for Beepong and last launch over armory because he can't go in the armory. Was concerned that it might be a little light on specialists, especially for Beepong and last launch. Considerations he was looking for is possibly a forward observer bot, so get fast specialist, can get up there, push buttons. Possibly a bashy specialist to come in off the side and get up to the buttons that are on the side. So when I looked at it, the list doesn't have much wiggle room for adjustments while maintaining the spirit of the original list. So I went really light. I swapped the second Digger for a Monstrucker, boarding shotgun, adhesive launcher, EM grenades. And then to get the points for that, the Flashbot became a fleshy Flashbot So a war core. Advantages of this: now you've got a specialist in the core, which it needs for Bpong, for last launch, and even for armory because someone's got to open the door. And it provides some really scary options for that core if they're either trying to go into or holding the armory, because you now have a 5-man core, albeit impure, with EM grenades.
Mm.
And she's not bad on the fizz either. So if you're trying to get into the room, she can spec fire EM grenades into the room on 10s. If you're already in the room, she's AROing burst 2 EM grenades on 16s. Yeah, so it's, while most people come into Druze expecting the core-linked EM grenade launcher, this is the other option. It's EM grenades, just no launcher.
No launcher. Just got to get a bit closer.
Yeah, so this should help get them a bit better at holding armory. Last launch, it gives them someone to get some tickets. And Bpong, it gives them someone else to push the buttons while they're up there. I think the list is still a little light, but I think he can pilot it. It's going to rely more on killing the opponent's specialists, and then having enough specialists left over to win at Bpong and last launch.
Yeah, I think it needs a Nazmat on Cordelia, or whatever the
Yeah, it's a Nazmat in here.
Nazmat.
Yeah.
The only reason that I'd want a Nazmat on Cordelia for last launch specifically is that when I'm moving my engineer, because like TR bots go down, almost the most efficient thing you can do with your engineer is pick it back up.
True.
So with Cordelia with a Nazmat can move towards the ticket machine for last launch and also pick up the drone bot in the same order. So I think that like having that flexibility in there would be beneficial. Not really sure how you would do.
Oh, you drop the war core.
You just drop the war core.
You just drop the war core. It's the same point as a Nazmat.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need the irregular order. You're probably spending...
The other thing you could do, and I know it's not ideal, if you wanted to keep the war core, because I was taking a look at this, is change the Peacemaker to the heavy shotgun bulleteer. That's also 3 points.
Actually, I like dropping the war core.
Wait, hold
because
on.
now you're at 14 in an army that has Yon-Yons.
Yeah.
And it is very easy to hide a Yon-Yon point-wise. So if you're running 14 orders in this list, in this Druze, your opponent is going to be looking for a Yon-Yon the entire time.
Yeah.
And given border skirmishes, well, I guess it's... Oh yeah, because they're combat drop. So yeah, combat drop border skirmishes, they've got a Yon-Yon that can come on at really weird places guaranteed.
All right.
I think this is the most resilience you can really get out of Druze. With, I think your changes give a little bit more lean a little bit more to, if you've been put on the back foot and you need to like bust into those rooms, you've got a couple more options than just throwing your diggers at them and hoping that they can survive firing off their chain rifles or throwing their grenades.
Yes. Well, and most people are going to try to put something resilient in the armory. Most of the time, that's heavy infantry.
Yeah.
Heavy infantry don't like EM weapons.
Unless they're Karakuri.
Oh, fair. Yeah. So, if they can get that EM in, immobilize some of those, they've got plenty of melee in that to just walk through anything that's immobilized.
Yeah, I suppose the second digger was just superfluous.
Yeah, because you've already got 2 models with chain rifle plus 1 burst, and now you've got access to smoke grenades, regular grenades, and EM grenades.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's good.
I like it. Oh, Hugh. Hugh brought us his OSS lists from BCB because he plans on just doing some fingers crossing and running his lists from BCB for CanCon. And he thought that I might like to have a go. Well, we might like to have a go.
Was this Hugh being lazy and just be like, you know what, these guys can make my lists for me?
There is a
make.
distinct possibility that that was his thought.
Not make, but definitely, give a bit of a nudge towards getting some new stuff. Loving some input because running them back and crossing my fingers is his current plan. List 1. So I honestly didn't know what to expect when I opened this list, and it certainly wasn't this. Because it begins with an authorized bounty hunter, Harris. So Hugh's been running, has been practicing, or has just been deciding just to do limited insertion or maybe pseudo limited insertion for the foreseeable future with his Infinity play, just because it makes it a little bit less taxing, and he also gets to on the brain in terms of list building. It also, means he can run all his big pieces in one list, and he likes running big stompy pieces because
And OSS is not a bad place to run big stompy pieces.
we can call him Timmy if we like. So OSS Group 1, 9 orders, 2 bounty hunter sniper rifles, and a bounty hunter submachine gun makes a an authorized bounty hunter Harris. The proxy loadout of Mark 1 hacker, Mark 2 multi sniper, and a Mark 4 heavy rocket launcher. Dart submachine gun Varrotac bow, the Shukra LT, and another little 3-man core of a Dakini heavy machine gun, a Dakini paramedic, and a Rudra. We do have a group 2 in this one, consisting of 3 troopers, a Probot EO hacker, a Warcore with a 360 visor, and an Arjuna with 2 Kirin bots. This bounty hunter Harris is wild, an Arjuna. I'm in. If anyone knows Magic the Gathering terms, I'm in Johnny Heaven. All of this, all this gushing aside, it's screaming for an engineer. This list.
I think when I fiddled with it, that was the first thing I think I dropped the Mark 1 for the engineer.
So the oddball player in me really wants to cut the Dakini paramedic to put Trisha in. But I think the proxy Mark 1 swap is the correct choice. Let's move on to the actual list. So I cut the hacker and dropped a Kirin bot on the Arjuna, and that gave me the core a little bit of failure protection with an engineer and a Yud bot. This leaves 2 points and half an SWC or wiggle room, so maybe a bounty hunter Red Furies on the cards instead of one of those sniper rifles. The list is basically the same. I just changed the Mark 1 to a Mark 1 hacker to a Mark 1 engineer and dropped the Arjuna Kirin bot. The advantages is the Dakini link becomes a million times more resilient when you've got an engineer in there. Alternatively, you could keep the Mark 1 hacker. You could do something really weird and fun and take the Dakini paramedic out, put Trisha, the weird character engineer in. This would mean that the Arjuna has to go, unfortunately, but upgrading or side grading or downgrading that to an Apsara REM driver means that the Dakini heavy machine gun becomes the Uber Dakini heavy machine gun. And change the Warcore to a net rod and move that one into Group 1. Probably for mission lineup for this one, probably not countermeasures. The updates to the list have trouble with a few too many classifieds. Like no forward deploying hackers or anything like that. Just makes it a little bit harder, and it may not have the staying power required for the armory, but it seems to do all the others pretty well. It's lacking like some of the real toolbox units that OSS have for things like countermeasures, like the Mark II hacker or an Asura. So that's an interesting. That's thoughts, guys. Interesting list there. 2 bounty hunter sniper rifles.
Well, Edrup the submachine gun has an acrylate cannon as well. So
Oh, yeah, and they roll weirdly good things, right?
yeah,
What if
well,
that
I think
submachine gun acrylate cannon rolls a multi sniper?
I think do they all have bounty reroll?
They
Or
don't
is
have
that
booty reroll. They
oh
just have
booty?
booty.
Okay, it's the motorized that has reroll.
Oh no, they do have
Oh
reroll.
no, no.
Right?
So that's authorized bounty hunters.
Yeah, they are authorized bounty hunters.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, no, they do have
Okay.
reroll.
They
Yeah,
have
I
reroll.
mean,
Okay.
I might say don't like save some points on one of the sniper rifles.
Nah, you want both.
No, well, I'm just thinking like try and let booty, try and let booty speak for itself. I remember one time getting a bounty hunter with the HMG. That was great.
What if you booty nothing though? Like,
Yeah,
You're running bounty hunters.
it's not that much more expensive, and it guarantees that you have
at
a
least a
sniper nest.
rifle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, we'll also point out that is a pure bounty hunter carries.
Interestingly,
yeah.
you could also cut the submachine gun to a motorized bounty hunter.
Yeah.
Which would give you 3 more points if you wanted to do something interesting there.
What's that? So, being pure, if you do happen to roll MSV on any of them,
They start
that is your
discovering pretty
discover group.
well. Yeah, they start discovering pretty well. Hey, I discover shoot with my bounty hunter sniper
Yeah,
rifle.
yeah.
Fantastic! I love it so much. And Hugh, I did talk to Hugh aside from this, and he said he admits that he hasn't actually run this list, but he would really like to, because it never came out at BCB. Because you'll see why. It's because his second list is real bloody good. So Hugh's second list.
Oh, I was just gonna say I'd potentially swap out Mark IV for Mark III, just to give him another sort of attack piece.
Man, the Mark IV is so good though.
Yeah, but the extra speed. I mean, look, there's not that much difference between the two. I suppose it's the extra armor, but yeah, it's a good defensive piece. But I feel like the Dakini HMG's already got that sort of locked down.
Bikini HMG is an attack piece. You're not using it to defend. The Mark IV is a set and forget. You just put it something there.
True.
And yeah, and I just don't think the Mark III is it. And George just said that as someone who tried really hard to make the Mark III work. It's just not it.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm just screaming out and going like, "This is just how I wouldn't run OSS full CanCon."
Yeah, well, CanCon specifically, they're probably not going to do the
Yeah.
best, but that's okay. That's okay. Let's have a look at list numero duo. This one starts off with a Dakini, Danavas, a Dakini HMG, a Danavas, and Parvati as a Harris. An Asura multi-rifle, hacking device lieutenant, +1 order, with a Rudra K1 marksman rifle and a Yadu heavy machine gun, another 3-man link. Proxy loadout of a Proxy Mark 1 hacker and a Proxy Mark 4. We've also got a Flash Pulse Bot, a Net Rod, and a Motorized Bounty Hunter, which rounds out Group 1. Group 2 has a Probot Evo hacker in it. This list, a little bit more familiar. I've played against this list, and Hugh's starting to get, well, not starting to, is very good at piloting this. So it makes me feel a little bit bad about changing it too much. It probably so I think the Mark 1 hacker, it feels sort of semi-unnecessary. So what I did was I would prefer to see an engineer, a Mark 1 engineer or a Mark 5 FO, because Parvati tends to be a long way from the Asura or the Rudra if she's stuck in the other fire team. So what I did was I changed the proxy Mark 1 to an engineer and a Yardbot. I downgraded the Netrod to a Warcore and moved it to Group 2, and I moved the Probot Evo Hacker to Group 1. You've got some repairs available. A real disadvantage of this list was with the Evo Hacker in Group 2, if a canny opponent, if you were going first and a canny opponent saw that how good the Evo Hacker is for your list, i.e. dropping marksmanship on either the Rudra or the Dakini, they can choose to strip one order from both groups, which means that Evo Hacker is now not doing anything. So that's why the change, just dropping the Warcore into Group 2 instead of into Group 1 and moving the Evo Hacker around. I think that makes it makes the choice obviously a little bit more simple, but you're going for limited insertion. It doesn't really matter what you bring into, like what you get in terms of getting countered with some stripping of orders, and it can do all missions. You know, it does all the missions. It does them really well. It struggles a little bit with some of the classifieds, but does them a lot better than Group 1, so than the first list. So if I was going to run a list for countermeasures, it would be this one. Thoughts, game?
I think the Probot was a really good catch.
Yeah.
Because
I didn't catch it when I was playing against this list, and I wish I had.
well, although it's not horrible to have it alone in Group 1 and Group 2,
No,
because
it's not awful.
even if the order is stripped, you've still got O12 Prestige now.
That's true.
That you could give it an order back.
Yeah.
But that means you have to spend a command token, and you now don't have the option to hot swap Marksman.
Mm-hmm.
If you have it in Group 1, it's got access to the full order pool. If you need to move marksmanship around during your turn, you can. Yeah. And you're not worried about, I've only got one order or I'm spending command tokens.
Absolutely.
Would the War Core be better spent by putting a second Yudbot out there?
You could. I don't really know what a second Yardbot would do for the list. You've already got Parvati in one of the Harises, which she provides doctoring and engineering. So she's already there. And she's arguably a better engineer than... Not arguably, she's definitely a better engineer than Mark 1. I think the Warcore, like, it's fine. It's just a bit of redundancy. If you really desperately need to, you can swap it into Group 1 and have it there for whatever that's, twofold command token spent on it. You could probably find points for something else if you really wanted to. But I think that this list is pretty tuned, so it was hard to do anything further with it.
I'm trying to think about whether I like the idea of proxy engineer or the doctor, because there's a lot of like fleshy things that are important to this list, and you've already got an engineer right up the Takini's ass with Pravati.
The Mark 1 hacker was more for the repairing of the Rudra and also clearing states on the Asura, if for critical failure states.
Yeah, no, that's true.
A doctor would provide you with healing the Yadu, the Asura, which is wounds, and the Mark IV. So that makes some sense, but I just don't like the Mark IV is so throwaway. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Um,
I think when I took a look at this list, because I like to do a lot more like stuff with the proxies because it's such a resilient order. I think I tended to like downgrade it to the Mark V with the submachine guns to somehow fit an Apsara into the list.
you could,
To really buff up that Dakini.
yeah. I don't know if the Apsara tends to be a little wasted.
Well, I mean, does take the Dakini from 11 to 13.
Eh,
With marksman, that means it's hitting on 16s. That's a decent difference. I mean,
yeah, you're rolling 5 dice, 5 dice on 14, and 5 dice on 16. I don't think really cuts it. I
I
think
mean, like
Apsara's overkill.
that's potential. I mean, there's not a huge amount of wiggle room to
No.
without ripping this list apart.
Yeah, exactly.
The only thing I do like, and I guess the Rudra's kind of there for, I guess, the mind dispensers, is I do like, and I think you've got, I think you very easily find, 2 points. You just downgrade the Lameth to a net rod. Is Shakti.
Instead of what, the Rudra?
Yeah.
The Rudra brings K1.
True, but the Shakti is a killer hacking device with just a flat +1 damage upgrade, which I think only applies to Trinity.
The Asura's got Trinity +1 +2 damage.
Yeah, no, I know. It just they do make a really nice like little ball, as well as she comes with veteran, so she can't be isolated.
Interesting. Yeah, okay. Well, I like it.
Yeah, it's a
I just
small.
think it's sort of
Yeah,
unnecessary.
it's a it's a small change that doesn't necessarily
Yeah.
bring like any huge advantages. It's just different.
If it was Shakti, I would probably bring the Mark I
Doctor.
Doctor
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, this is me coming from a list I used to run in N3. It hasn't hugely changed, but that ball of Azura, Shakti, and the Yadu NCO also does make it, I think, not that it matters. No, it doesn't make it a pure link. Yeah, it doesn't really
The
matter.
Asura counts Yadu.
Yeah, it does. Shakti counts as an Azura.
Right.
So technically it's pure, but it's not really going to help when you've got a MSV3 anyway.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Yeah, you just automatically do it. But yeah, no, there's not much room to pull this apart.
How are we going for time?
All there, or do
I think we can
single list one?
a single list one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do one
Let's
more.
do one more.
Okay.
Sure, another Melbourne.
So, yeah. Okay, so we have an O12 list from Sam. Only sent in one list, but was specifically looking to do Armory, B-Pong, and Unmasking with it. He's a little concerned about it for Armory, wants it to be a little bit better, but has the gung-ho spirit of, if things go bad, apply Zeta.
Mm.
So the list is a Varangian, Gangbuster, Killer Hacker, Mind Layer, 2 Flashbots, Nalf, Liang Kai, Zeta, Cyber Ghost with Hacking Device Plus, Sirius, so Hacking Device with the Third Spot Heavy Right Stopper, a Beast Hunter Camo with Heavy Flamethrower Panzerfaust. Group 2 is a Raven Eye Lieutenant a Monstrucker, another Varangian, a Yudbot for the Monstrucker, and a Missilebot. So now, prefaces with O12 is not one of my strongest factions I'm well versed in, but
Just
my first two thoughts on reading the list were
just quickly, and I never
where
noticed this before. Are the
Yeah.
missile bots called Millicent?
Millicents, yeah.
Illicit. Yep.
As in like Sleeping Beauty, evil witch
No,
Millicent?
that's Maleficent.
That's
Oh.
Mal.
Maleficent.
Go on.
So first two thoughts, like where's the Roadbot? Can I fit a combat drop specialized in this list? Especially with B-Pong and unmasking.
Mhm.
On top of that, if he really wants this better armory, we need to find something beefier that's in the S2 range to fit into the armory to hold it. So, changes. I swapped the Gangbuster Killer Hacker for a Delta Killer Hacker. This way he's got a drop troop to put further up the board. Switch or move the Flash Bot to Group 2. I switched the Zeta for Hector, Lieutenant +1 Plasma. Yep. Please, O12 players, don't kill me. The Raveneye and the Monstrucker I swapped for the Roadbot Paramedic and an unarmed Fuzzbot because I ran out of Flashbots. So the list ends up being a Varangian, Delta Killer Hacker, Flashbot, Nalf, Liang Kai, Hector Plasma Rifle, Cyber Ghost, Hacking Device Plus, the Cirrus Hacker with Cirrus Bot Heavy Riot Stopper, Beast Hunter Camo. Then Group 2 is the Missile Bot, the other Varangian, Roadbot Paramedic with Sidebot, a Fuzzbot Deactivator, and the other Flashbot. So, idea there being specialists are now faster and more resilient. Specifically, like, yeah, I don't know, seen an unmasking list and not seen a Roadbot. Yeah, I'm not sure why it would not be in there. They're just so good at running up there and touching buttons and then going blam to HVTs. It also gives the list something that it can put in the armory and hold it. So covering, same that he was asking for, armory, B-Pong, unmasking.
It transforms into an S2, doesn't it?
No, it transforms to an S5.
Yeah, so
So-
the robot can't grab and jump into the armory.
No.
No, the Roadbot can't, but Hector can.
Yeah, okay, sorry. I thought you were talking about the robot getting into the thing.
No,
Sorry.
the Roadbot's there because that way he can get up the field fast. He doesn't have to worry about infiltrate and forward deploy not working. Can get up there, can push the buttons. In its Roadbot form, it's got climbing plus as well, so it can get wherever it wants. He's also got the Delta, so instead of starting another hacker in his deployment zone, he's now got one that drops in. Since he's got border skirmishes in every mission, that allows him to get closer to the buttons with more guarantee.
Gangbusters are forward deployment, are they not?
Are they not? Oh,
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Also, mad traps do work.
I mean, with
Mhm.
armory and with armory specifically, I suppose the problem in part O12 has is the whole they don't have many lethal templates, which Hector does in some way resolve because he's got his nanopulsar.
Mhm.
Potentially, and this is just sort of a different option, is replace Hector. This also gets you, I think, to full orders. Do you have 15 orders here?
No.
You're down.
there's
we're
it's 14.
16.
Yeah.
16, including Hector's strategy, Joss.
Yeah, is yeah, so you probably end up with the same amount of orders. I think maybe your one up is split Hector into Saladin and Hippolyta.
Hmm.
Hippolyta's interesting.
Hippolyta, like, still has 2 wounds, just like Hector.
Mhm.
3 armor, not great, and she's also impetuous, but she does have Berserk. She does have the mimetism. She's not hackable. The other thing, well, I know Hector's got the firewall as well as and the -3 from the tin bot. You know, concentrated hacker, concentrated hacking attempts will eventually shut him down. Hippolyta
Blender
doesn't
it well.
necessarily have to worry about that, and you still get the strategos, so you still get that extra order as well as like the ability to move things around. Although I think it's the wrong suit. I don't think he's strategos enough for that. But I
Yeah.
think I think the addition of like the Beast Hunter heavy flamethrower actually getting some of those lethal
Oh, I think the
templates
Beast
in
Hunter is
there.
necessary.
Yeah.
Because you're right. So much of it with armory, and actually like mad traps, like they're great, but they won't defend armory because the points are still in the room.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. One problem I was looking at is going, what do they have that can get inside the armory? And almost everything that's actually O12 is S5. So back to looking at, okay, well, what type of LF tanks do they have that are S2?
The other one that for armory is a potentially really good one because I'm just sort of going through like the lethal templates is the Raptor.
Raptor, yeah.
Which gives you the
So
access to
slow.
2 heavy flamethrowers that you can split fire. So you could very easily, probably just with the Raptor, cover every inch of the armory.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's really about where it ends as far as like lethal templates go, because that's the sort of thing you want to clear out an armory. And yeah, I mean, looking at nanopulses, it's a lot of units that aren't O12.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing is with the drop troop with the Delta is that I know you're dropping him for like a specialist. What's the named guy again?
Ooh,
There go
don't
Goldstein.
Hello.
Yeah. Nah. I mean, he's a bit tougher. But he's not any sort of specialist, so don't worry about it.
Oh yeah, yeah, because he's not a specialist.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
You need
don't,
a specialist.
yeah, no, don't worry about it. But yeah, I think Raptor, potentially Hippolyta, and Saladin,
I
which I think
I,
gets you the
I,
same amount of orders.
I like the Hector. I like the Saladin
Hippolyta.
Hippolyta change, especially because Saladin nets you 1+1 command token, and command tokens are spending.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. So he for 1 turn, you are, I think, an order up with O12 Prestige. And the Berserk on Hippolyta's real nasty. Like, if she sees someone in the armory, it's a great way of getting in, right, and like
Oh,
beating
that's a good
things
point.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, even especially if someone puts something really important in the armory. Let's say from the last list we were covering, the Azura. Right, Hippolyta's just like, I'll trade for that. Boom.
I mean, don't even have to trade nowadays because Hippolyta's 2 wounds.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, and the road bot's there to bring it back up if you need to.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Not if she goes into the armory.
medikits are.
Oh, sorry, Metatarks. Yeah. Sorry, Hawk player and me.
You can't get into combat with him.
I'm just thinking of
Man,
the meme from Always Sunny. Is like I just started blasting.
I just started blasting my medikits.
Yeah.
Killing my Hippolyta.
Yeah. I think. Yeah, I think that's solid. Could Liang Kai Be anything else?
Nah, Nankai's great. Leave
Nah.
Nankai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
because he's
he
full
covers stuff they just don't have.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he's also like forward deployment a bunch. Oh
Plus
no.
4.
Oh yeah, he is too. Which means
Which is
which is
perfect.
great because you're not wasting any points on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
no,
excellent.
no, I think that's good. And I think that's worth it. Those are good changes.
Mhm.
Well, we should thank our listeners for the fact that we have been given so many lists that we certainly can't cover them in a single episode, let alone a single night. We'd be up until the crack of dawn getting through the rest of them. So
And I think our reviews might go downhill after in another hour or so.
yeah, the first like 6-7 hour Loss of Lieutenant episode. So I think we're gonna call it there. We will
Mhm.
look at covering the rest of the list that was submitted closer to CanCon, sort of potentially give everybody something to drive down to. Give some of the people who we covered second something to worry about. But for the people who are here listening and the people who listen online, thank you very much. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving us your attention, and hopefully for those whose list we covered, hopefully we've given you at the very least something to think about, and you don't hate us too much.
I see you at CanCon. You don't run one of my lists. I'm gonna punch you. I'm
Maybe we could do that as like the challenge for next thing is just run our pimped lists so we can make awful lists and people are like, oh, I just want an extra prize.
Hugh has to run his bounty hunter Harris.
Yeah, for all
Yes,
of them, all 5 rounds.
I won't be there, but I want pictures of his bounty hunter Harris.
I will take photos of it if it goes up. All
Well,
right.
thank you for listening, everybody. We will be back with a part 2, but for now, I've been Jacob.
I've been
I've
Josh.
been Nick.
We fucked it up. I've been Josh. Good night.
And I've been Nick.
Good night, everybody.